Hello students, this is Dr. Petroda. We are once again back with the function and its type, and this time it's going to be part 3. I'm sure you have gone through part 1 and part 2 before getting into part 3. If not, please go through part 1 and 2, otherwise it will be difficult to come to this level. Let us begin understanding by quickly revising few of the important concept that are useful in the process of learning of part 3. So let us start with the pen over here. So this is what we have learned. A function or a method is nothing but a task or a process. A larger program is broken into small and easily executable task process. Alright, we call that as method. Alright, and each function, each method is responsible to perform a process of a larger program. We've also seen there are two types of function. Library functions are the ones which are ready-made and supplied by Java. They are available in all parts of the program, and there are certain functions which are made to meet the requirements of the user. These are common tasks which may be needed by most of the programmer. These are specific tasks which is only needed for your customer, so you create them. There are two ways you can create. One is call by value, another is call by reference. Call by value is also known as pass by value, and here pass by reference. Call by value are again of two type, void and a return type. We've also seen in the exam ICSE they both will carry 15 marks weightage, which is going to make it to 30, which is a quite large number, alright, for the exam. So this topic is pretty important. Plus 6 to 8 marks you can add to get the theory portion. This is a theory portion. So that will make 36 to 38 marks this particular topic itself. So you need to be focusing more. Then we've also seen both the types, void type and return type. In a void type you write void here, and in a return type you write any primitive data. The only non-primitive data that is available here is to write string. A return type function will have a return type, return keyword with the data, with the variable whose data value that you want to supply back. You can also have a process to return back. Return will return the value back to the place where the function call was made, where even here function call was made. Now, once the value is returned, you can either print it or you can store it into a variable and then use it further. To have a more knowledge about return type and void type, you should refer to part 1 and part 2 of the series of functions and data type. Okay, function and its types. Void, we have seen void can store the value into a data bank or a print or both, all right, or only a process straight print. So void type will not allow the data pointer to go back and supply the final process value back to the function call. It doesn't allow. That's why they are written independently, whereas return type has to have either print or a variable to store along with. This is what we have done in void type and a return type learning. Now today we are going to go, in this particular session we are going to go into the principles of object oriented programming. We have learned in past also Java being object oriented programming. There are four basic principles that we are going to learn. So we will first name them and then we will go one at a time, each one of them. So the first one that you have is encapsulation, the second one is abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. Polymorphism is also known as function overloading. Number of times in ICSE they will ask you, in fact all the questions of call by value so far has been asked on 15 marks only on this topic, on polymorphism. Alright, so we are going to get into this particular object, you can say principle of OOPS in this session. Other we will, as and when we progress, will follow. Okay, so let us get into understanding about polymorphism. Now before we get into this particular thing, I'm sure you all have learned math functions in your class 9. In class 9 you've learned math.max. Now in math.max, if you see, if I give two integers, one decimal, another integer, one integer, another decimal, two decimals, any set of value out of two, I put any data type I put, my answer does come. My answer does come. So if I take you to the program part of it and I run this program, okay, so you will see here is math dot POW, sorry, max of 2 comma 5 2.5 comma. If I compile this program and get my answer, I get my answer 5 5.0 12.0 and 5.0. Now this is very important. The first one comes in a integer, whereas the other three comes in a decimal. Okay, now if I come back here, so I can say that my first answer, which was 5, but the second one was not 5, it was 5.0. I'm sure you should know your implicit cast well. When two different data items are there, computer will convert the other one into the equivalent type of other data. So 5 will become 5.0, then only computer will identify. Similarly here also 12.0, and here of course there will be 5.0. However, the function did not change, which is receiving two integer, a decimal and an integer. So if I assume what could have been the the first line of any function is known as function prototype. So what could have been the function prototype that we could be having? So if I say first one, then my return type public static is a common in all cases, okay, as of now for learning sake. Then we will go more in detail, but int, because it is returning an integer type value, max, two integers have been received, so int a, int b. So this one will receive a and b, and whatever answer greater value is returned. But in this case I could have had the double, because I'm returning a double value, double A, which is going to take this, and int B, which is going to take this. At the same time, I have 12, which is my int part, whereas 5 is my decimal part. But my return answer is decimal, so this is double. At the same time, this is taking both the decimals, okay, double A and double B, and my answer is coming back also as double. So now you have a look at it. There is double, 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 but there is int. Now how is this possible? Alright, because technically if you see, if I write a function with two integer, it cannot take any of these combination, because decimal cannot go into integer. If I take two integer, I can easily say that both integer can be easily absorbed over here, but then they are returning a decimal, I am getting an integer answer. So in that case, computer, or rather say Java, follows the principle of polymorphism. That's the beauty about Java, that it doesn't disturb the user with a combination of values, neither it is telling the user to use various different functions. Suppose I would have said for two integers use max 1, decimal and integer max 2, integer and decimal max 3, both decimal max 4. Now if for every function which has 2 or maybe sometime more input, if you are going to keep remembering many functions with numbering, it will be very difficult for a user to remember. So polymorphism allows us to multiple use of same name, alright, but they are different by their parameter list. Okay, I am not bothered about the return type, I am bothered about the parameter list. So your meaning here that we get is polymorphism is a process of using multiple functions, meaning multiple functions or method with the same name. So there is a name same, but they are differentiated by two things. One, the number of arguments in the parameter list, which we'll see in the next slide, and number two, which we have already seen with the data type. So if you look at data type, integers, two integers, a decimal and an integer, integer and a decimal, decimal and a decimal. So if you look at the combination, then in all four cases the combination is different, though the function name is same. Now what happens is, when computer is reading only this line, computer will be able to find the best matching, alright, which is two integer over here, and run only this function, will ignore the other three automatically, and that's the smartness of your Java compiler. That's the smartness of your Java compiler, that it is able to identify based on the input value the data type and goes to the matching one. So this process is called polymorphism, or so called function overloading. So let us take with an example over here. So I have a class, let's say overload. Okay, I'm making my own class now. I have one function, public static void sum. So my sum product, some function will take two integers and find sum of both the integers. I have another function void sum. Now you see this function name. This whole thing, as I said, is your function prototype. Okay, function prototype is the first line of any function, which contains, of course, access specifier, modifier, return type, function name, and parameter list. Everything is called function prototype. Okay, now this function prototype function name remains the same, but what is different is integer, but here there are three integers. So if I look at three integers, then this is, in this case, the difference is number of parameter. So if I go back to see multiple functions having same name but differentiated by the number of arguments. There are two arguments, there are three arguments. Okay, so it is a plus b plus c I am doing here. Now at the same time I have third function, which is again void sum, but it has two decimals. Okay, and again if you see now, multiple functions with the same name, but they are differentiated by two things. Number of arguments, when the data type remains the same, I can have a number of arguments same, different, or the data type, two integer, two decimal. So the data type. This concept is called function overloading. So when I'm going to run this program, I call this using main, and when computer will read this line, it will automatically call only this function. So if I'm going to just erase this part, alright, okay, one moment. I'm going to erase this part just to clarify a little bit more. Okay, we can see now very clearly, okay, that function, all functions have a same name. So I'm going to keep the underline for the function name, but other marking we have removed. So we have void sum, void sum, void sum. We have int abc, int xy. So the data type int, and the, alright, int double. So there are three arguments, 1, 2 and 3. There are two arguments, 1 and 2. And here also there are two arguments. So when the arguments are same, the data types are different. Probably when the data type is same, your argument may differ. I can have another function with multiple more arguments with different data types. It's okay. So when computer will run sum of 5, 10, technically 5 is an integer, 10 is also an integer, computer will find dynamically from here the matching function and run call only this function. This is called dynamic binding. When multiple function with the same name is present, computer is able to find the best matching function with its data type, alright, from a list of function is called dynamic binding. In a normal function where all number names are different and they are making a call, just finding a function is called binding. This is dynamic because it can switch over from function to function. Okay, then sum of 2, 3, 4. Now this is matching with 3 arguments, which is going to run only this. Now when I'm saying which is going to run this, you will see the output point of view. The number that is going to show you will tell you which argument is actually which function is running. When I'm going to have sum of 4.2 comma 3.2, this is going to match the best function over here, and it will not call this, though the sum is same in all cases, but computer is smart enough to find out two decimal and run this one. That's the beauty about this function. Now let us understand one more concept here is where the dynamic binding will come into process. What if I have one integer and 3.0, a decimal? So technically there is an integer, there is a decimal. Now there is no extra function available. If I write this, it will not call, it will not give you an error message, because now computer knows that there is no exact matching function. So the best matching function is this. 3.0 can go over here, but 2 can also go over here, which will get converted into 0.0 to make it 2.0 and 3.0. So this one will also run this. When in the absence of exact match, computer will be able to get the best match, unless the best match is not found. For example, if I say sum of 2.0 comma 3.0 comma 4.0, something like that, which is not present, obviously you will not get. Okay, then suppose if I have first decimal and second integer, this will still run this, because 5.0 can go here, okay, and 4 can go here to become 4.0, and it will still run. So in this case also you will get here 333, or rather say in this case it is 222. So I'm going to make an erase over here. I'm going to erase over here, okay, and make it over here 222. So though it's mentioned here, I have copied from somewhere, but definitely this is 222. So this is going to be 222, and of course this is also going to be 222, unless there are separate functions being written. So this will run. So that is why this is called function overloading, where I can have few functions being written, and dynamically computer will be able to run those functions which are either exact match or the best match. So let us see this with the help of a practical. So I'm going to take up first function, okay, and I'm going to show you here. It's the same thing, void sum, two integers, we have 111. Three integers is 333. Two decimals is 222. Now you have a main function. Though I have got the other functions, but even if I delete the other functions, okay, I'm deleting them. These are the matching numbers, but if I'm deleting them, 2.0, 2 comma 3.0 is an integer and a decimal, which will definitely going to run this, because there is no integer and a decimal function. There are only three functions, two integers, three integers, and two decimal. Everything else I have deleted. So in this case, this is going to run this part, 222. So you'll get 222. This is exact matching with two integers, so this is going to run this function. Okay, this is going to run three integers. It means it's going to match over here three integers. So this is going to run 333, this function. Two decimal obviously is matching with two decimals, which will run this. One integer and decimal, since there is no exact function being found, so computer will be able to run this only and get you answer 222. So you'll get 222, 111, 333 and all 222. So if I compile this and run this program, you can see this. I got 222, 111, 333 and 222. So these are two decimals. This is also decimal. This is two integers. This is three integers. Now, when exact match is available, then computer will not take the nearest match. Meaning by, when I have another function available, double A int B, int A double B, now computer is going to run integer and a decimal will run this part, which is nothing but 444. Two integer, obviously we have seen two integer will run two integers over here. Three integers will definitely run the second one over here. Two decimal will run definitely over here, and one decimal and an integer will run decimal and integer, which is your function 555. So now you will see 4, 1, 3, 2, 2, 2, 5. All functions will go to the matching function exact matching because they are available. 4, 1, 3, 2, 5. Their answers are here. So function overloading will allow you to write multiple functions with the same name. Okay, void sum, void sum, void sum, and of course there is void sum. Main is of course required to run them. Okay, but they are differentiated by data type with respect to two things: number of argument, 2 arguments, 3 arguments, and data type is 2 integer, 2 decimal, 2 integer, 2 decimal, or 1 decimal integer or an integer decimal. So that is the concept of function overloading. I have one simple function over here, a geometric figure. So let us take an example over here. I have let's say a function over here called geometry. To overload a function called area, okay, to calculate area of geometric figure. Now let us say I've got double area with 1 decimal value to accept a square, side of a square, and return the area. Then I've got a length and a breadth being accepted and return the rectangle area. And then I've got 1 decimal and 1 integer being accepted in a function double area. See, all of them are return type now. This time they are not void type, except base and a height, and returns the area of triangle. So this is incomplete program will complete this. So I have a function geometric figure. Okay, I have got 1 decimal, 2 you can say decimal. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it over here, and I'm going to make it here as 1 integer. And what was the question here? So if you look at the question says base and height. So I'm going to make it here base and height. And this time we are going to say half into, so half is 0 0.5 into base into height. So into base into height. Assuming that we are aware of the formula, this is the function, all right, for returning area of square. If I want, I can make a what do you call the message in the function in the main, not here. This is just calculating and returning. Okay, now I need to call them. Okay, I need to call them. There's nowhere mentioned, but ICC requirement now is in function overloading you should write main and you should provide some fictitious values. So let us assume that I have the function. Now I'm first going to show you from another program. There is a program called gfigure. From there I'm going to run this. So in gfigure I already have area of square, area of rectangle. I'm going to also say area of triangle. I'm going to copy this over here, copy, paste, and I'm going to say area of. So this time I'm going to say I need 1 integer, 1 decimal. First time was 1 decimal. I'm going to put 2 decimals, and I'm going to say 1 integer, another decimal. Okay, so logically this is going to be triangle. So I say 5 3s are 15. 15 divided by 2 should be 7.5 into half. This is going to be 5 3s are 15, and this is going to be square. So 5.5, I'm going to make it as 5.5 as 5.0. So we know square is going to be 25. So if I run this, it will go to geometry, into area, and find the best matching function. So from here you can see this is being shown here. I compile this. You can see area of square, rectangle, and triangle. But in your ICSE you will not be asked the question to be called from another class. You will be needing the same thing. I'm going to cut from here so that there will be nothing left over here, and I'm going to paste it over here only. So in your ICSE you will have to write it in the same class. So now I don't need geometry because I'm already present in this class, so I can delete this. As if you have done the first part 1 of function, you will realize that why you can write like this as well. Now if I run this in my main only, I'll be able to get the geometric figure. So this is called the direct values, the assumed values, alright, fictitious values, and computer is able to run which one. So this is how your function overloading works here. I hope you guys, even there is a program here with a number of series. So I can take one more question here. Here is a program that says create a class called series, and you have function called sequence. Okay, sequence int n to generate even numbers from 1 to n, sequence int a comma int b to sequence all the numbers from a to b. Okay, and another say sequence with a no parameter to get odd numbers from 1 to 25. So my class, so I'm going to make a change in this same program only. So I'm going to write down my class name as series. So I'm going to say series. There is already a series with me, so I'm going to just make it 1. Alright, 11. The word here was sequence, so I'm going to copy the same thing. You're supposed to follow the instructions in ICSE. It's a void type. Okay, so printing. So I'm going to follow here sequence. This is also going to be sequence, and this is also going to be sequence. So I've got a sequence over here. So as I'm going to also write down sequence over here, and over here. So I've got a sequence. The first one. So let us see the question point of view. First function says void sequence int n generate all even numbers from 1 to n. So my first function public static void sequence int n. I generated all even number from 2 to the n with a distance of 2, gap of 2, increment of 2. Print will print 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, whatever until the n. The next function here is sequence int a int b to generate all the numbers from a to b, assuming that a will be smaller. Okay, so here int a int b, alright, int I is equal to a less than equal to b, and I plus plus will generate all the numbers from 1 to you can say a to b. Okay, you don't need this as of now. And the third one says void sequence with no parameter but to print all the odd numbers from 1 to 25. So we created a sequence with nothing, 1 to 25, all the odd numbers. The program is over here, but we are going to write main. In main, when I'm going to say sequence with nothing, it will match with this. So I'm supposed to get first all the odd numbers from 1 to 25. This line is just to show you that there will be a space in between the two outputs, so you'll know this was the first output. This is sequence with one integer. Sequence with one integer is matching with this. So I'll get all the even numbers from 2 to 10. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 I'll get. Alright, and the last one that we have after the space 20, 40. So 2 integer. So 20 to 40 I will get all the numbers being printed. So I say compile. I come here and I say void main. Here is my answer. So if I go back and see, my first one was all the odd numbers from 1 to 25. Second one was even numbers from 2 to 10. And from 20 to 40 I got all the values. So computer could manage to run. Now you must be wondering what is the point in writing this. Is in a professional programming you don't run all the programs. Like you don't press every button over here at the same time. At any point of time you are going to press one button. So whichever button is clicked on, only that function works. So here also obviously there will be a question with conditions, inputs coming from the user, choices given to the user like switch case, if else is what do you want to have it. Accordingly computer will run. You are not going to run all of them in sequence. It's not going to work. Okay, I mean it's working, but it's not going to help. So you may have all the options available. Based on what user enter, only that particular part of a function will work, not all. So you need to know that. I hope you guys have understood the function overloading. There are many ICC questions which we will do and deal with as and when we progress. Once the conceptual understanding is done, created, then we'll be able to do the ICC question as well. I hope you guys have understood this concept. Please ensure that you subscribe to my channel so that all the latest update, new programs, then explanation, their concept will be also updated with you, and you will be able to probably fare well better in your exams in ICSE as well. Thank you very much. God bless.